Earlier this Lent, I had a Mass at one of our local nursing homes. And as soon as the Mass was over, there was a great commotion. Everyone started hurrying out of the room we were in. And those who had their own canes or walkers started scurrying out, and the nurses rushed in and whisked away people who were in a wheelchair. And where is everyone going in such a hurry? I thought, my preaching couldn't have been that bad. And I went outside and in the parking lot, and everyone was lined up to get onto a bus. So I got in line too, and I got on board. I said, "Where are we going?" And they said, "This is the mystery bus. Once a month we go out, and we never know where we're going. It's a surprise." And I didn't know how long the mystery bus was going to take, so I got off. But I heard later, they had gone to the park to feed the birds, and they had gone to the downtown to see the people, and who knows what I missed. It's all a mystery. Great crowds had come to the Passover feast, and we're all worshiping God in the temple, when all of a sudden there was a great commotion. People started scurrying out as fast as they could. The rich, the poor, the old, the young, people carrying the crippled and the lame. They saw a man coming in on a colt, and they began to lay down their cloaks on the road and wave leafy palm branches. "Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." To many people in that crowd, it might have been a mystery who is coming in that day, but for others it was not. This is Jesus, the great prophet from Galilee. We've heard so much about him. He's done such wonders. He's finally come to Jerusalem. And they get on board the procession. They all go up to the temple together. They go through the temple gates. In my imagination, I know exactly how this story goes. Jesus goes into the temple, and he confronts the money changers. He casts them out. He challenges the authority of the scribes and the Pharisees. He has finally come. This is what the whole Gospel of Mark has been leading up to. He gets to his own city of Jerusalem, and he's never leaving again until he accomplishes what he has come to do. Is that what you have in your imagination too? Except for that's not how it goes at all. At the beginning of today's Mass, we read through verses 1 through 10 of the 11th chapter of Mark's Gospel, and it ends with the people shouting Hosanna. But I wondered, well, what goes on after this? And I opened up my Bible, and I read verse 11. This is verse 11. Jesus entered Jerusalem and went into the temple area. He looked around at everything, and since it was already late, he went out to Bethany. What a letdown. Palm Sunday wasn't what Jesus' mission was all about after all. That's what the crowds thought. They thought that, yes, finally the Messiah has come, this great king, this victorious general. We're welcoming him as such. And yes, Jesus is a king, but his kingdom is not of this world. And he is certainly no military hero. Jesus has not come at all to be that type of Messiah. And so he leaves the temple, he leaves Jerusalem just as soon as he gets there. Because what he came to accomplish isn't in the temple. It's on Calvary. What he came to accomplish isn't inside the gates of the city, it's outside. And hardly anyone notices later that week when a condemned criminal is nailed to a cross. This is not the way I thought the story went. And it's not the way that anyone would have written up the story of the Messiah ahead of time, but God's ways are much more mysterious than ours. If anyone had bothered to listen to Jesus, this is exactly what he said was going to happen. He had prophesied many times leading up to this that when we get to Jerusalem, I'm going to be rejected by the elders and by the chief priests. I'm going to be handed over to sinners and put to death. And on the third day, I will rise. With Jesus, it's never a magical mystery tour. It's always, he tells us every step along the way, every stop we're going to make. He says it all ahead of time to prepare us for what's coming. And he keeps doing it. He says to two of his disciples as they're going into the city, okay, you two go first, find a colt, you'll find it tied up, no one's ever sat on it, someone's going to try to stop you. Just tell them the master has need of it. Take the colt, bring it here, and we'll all ride in together. And so it happens. Okay, now it's the Passover. You two go in again to the city, and you'll see a man carrying a jar of water. Follow him to a certain house. Say to the master of that house, we need a room for the Passover, and he'll provide it. And so it happens. One of you will betray me. Judas betrays him. Before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. Peter denies him. You will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power and coming with the clouds of heaven. And so it will happen. With Jesus, it's not a mystery. He tells us along the way what's going to happen. He prepares us. He knows what's happening next. He is a great prophet. When the soldiers blindfold him and mock him and say, prophesy, they don't realize that Jesus can see very clearly the road ahead. He is prophesying, and his true prophecy is a sign that he is the Messiah. When I try to predict the future, it doesn't go so well. A few months ago, I was out here in the parking lot after Mass, and I saw the bus from the nursing home. I guess it was taking a day off from the mystery bus, and it was here at Mass. And so I said to him, I'm going to Langdon Place tomorrow to say Mass, I thought. And so I got on board, and I announced to everyone, I'm coming to Mass tomorrow. And there was a great cheer that went up. And I got off the bus, and I saw another bus across the parking lot. It was the bus for Langdon Place. I had been on the bus for Riverwoods. And so I had to get back on and tell everyone, okay, I'm not coming to Mass after all. What a letdown. With Jesus, it doesn't work that way. Jesus' promises are true. His word is sure. We can trust in it. When in our life we experience suffering and rejection like Jesus did, when we experience heartache and difficulty and pain and the cross, why are we surprised? Didn't Jesus say that's what's going to happen? If you want to be my disciple, you've got to pick up your cross every day and follow me. And when in our life, sometimes against all hope, we see how that cross leads to new life. Somehow that cross becomes the most beautiful thing in our life. Somehow we find the strength to carry that cross. That strength seems to come from nowhere sometimes. When we see the sprouts of resurrection already sprouting, why are we surprised? Were not our hearts burning within us when Jesus spoke to us of these things along the way? We know exactly where this story is going. Through the cross, to the resurrection, through the cross, to the empty tomb. We know that because that's where Jesus has gone before us, and we're just following in his footsteps. It isn't a mystery, and it's all a mystery because we enter into what Jesus did this week. We know how Holy Week goes. We've celebrated it before. We've gone through the beauty of Holy Thursday and the sorrow of Good Friday and the great joy of Easter. But we do it again. We get on board again because every time we celebrate it, we realize more and more, this is what my life is all about. This is what my story is. I'm in the same story. I'm on this same journey. And every time we go through it, we get surprised by just how deep, just how beautiful the mystery really is. And so it's the mystery bus. Get on board.